Hello, and welcome to our webinar, Boosting Global Sales While Streamlining Indirect Tax. My name is Steve Johnston, and today I'm joined by Megan Manning from Shopify and Andrew Halsworth from Vertex. Before we begin, I'd like to make some announcements. Please note the audio options available to you in your invitation. You can listen through either your computer or telephone. If you'd prefer to use the telephone audio, please review your confirmation for dial-in details. All phone lines have been muted, so please direct all of your comments and questions to the Q&A module, and we'll try and address all of them as much as possible as time permits. Anything we don't get to, we will follow up with you offline. Please also note that we will be sending you both the presentation and a recording of today's webinar for your reference. So, well, before I hand over to Megan and Andrew, I'd like to take a moment to talk about Shopify and Vertex and how we work together. I apologize there. So when you think about your business and commerce, the Shopify brand certainly comes to mind first as a leading global provider of commerce solutions. And from a Vertex perspective, as a leading global provider of tax compliance solutions, it's only natural that our two companies work together, as we represent some of the most valuable brands in business and help them to transact confidently and frictionlessly, regardless of how, when, or where they're engaging with customers. So together, our combined solutions are meant to empower you and remove barriers to your business and allow you to be more successful. So I'm going to I'm going to move us forward here. And before we jump in, I want to take a moment to get to know all of you a little bit more. So if you could take a few seconds here and just answer the poll question here, it'll allow us to give you a much more tailored experience during the presentation. Take a couple more seconds. It looks like folks are still filling that out. All right. All right, so we're going to take a quick look and just see the results here so far. So it looks like we've got a number of existing Vertex customers, some Shopify customers, some joint customers, and some folks that are just still learning. So that'll certainly be helpful as we go forward. We'll have a couple of other poll questions as we go forward, so we appreciate your engagement here. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Megan.
Thanks, Steve. All right, to kick us off, I'm going to go through kind of the what and the why of the tax platform. So at a high level, the tax platform allows third-party providers to calculate taxes within Shopify checkout. And the point of that was to give merchants agency to choose the right tax solution on Shopify. We did offer other tax solutions, such as Shopify Tax. However, we recognize that those solutions may not meet the needs of larger, more complex merchants. So the tax platform provides merchants the ability to use the third-party tax service provider that meets their needs and is flexible to grow with their business. Or maybe it's the tax service that they're already using outside of Shopify and want to bring that onto our platform. Again, we just want to take merchants from Hello World to IPO, and the tax platform is meant to address the complexities that come with selling across multiple global jurisdictions, selling in niche verticals, just really complexity. So why Vertex? Why did we partner with them? We recognize that Vertex has a lot of expertise across multiple industries, solving for B2B, B2C, global requirements, multiple tax types. We also recognize that Vertex is the clear leader in enterprise, counting 60% of Fortune 500 companies as clients. And that's not just a splashy number that we were told. We really heard a lot of demand for Vertex. from both existing merchants and prospective merchants. So existing merchants that were already using Vertex for their off Shopify business or maybe some back-end processes and wanted to use one provider for everything. Similarly, prospective merchants that were keen on Shopify, but they were already using Vertex, and the idea of managing taxes in two places was not ideal. We also recognize that in addition to a robust solution, Vertex can provide customized guidance, consulting and implementation services, and just all around is a good partner for both us and our merchants to help us all get compliant and remain compliant. So who's a good fit? Merchants on any Shopify plan can use the platform and can use Vertex. But we do recognize that probably merchants that are on Plus or Commerce components make the most sense, given how robust of a solution it is. Merchants doing more than 25 million in annual GMV probably makes sense to take a look at us. Merchants selling via multiple channels, selling cross-border or with global operations, facilities, warehouses in multiple countries. And in terms of size, you're probably a company with hundreds or thousands of employees. And with that, I am going to pass it over to Andy.
Actually, Megan, I'll jump in here. So when we talk about selling globally and complying confidently, we're going to start by putting Paul out there and just once again get to know what regions that you're selling in. So if you can take a moment to answer this poll question. Once again, it'll help as Andy digs in a little bit more on this topic. All right, looks like folks are filling in. And it's interesting as we talk to customers selling in different regions, just what level of complexity that brings. And we'll talk about this in a moment. Looks like folks are still filling in there. All right, so we're going to move forward and just take a look. So it looks like we've got a significant number of folks that are selling in in EMEA, as well as some folks selling in both North America and Europe. So as we go forward, we'll talk a little bit about the fact that whether you're selling in one region or multiple regions, the challenges that come with that and the solutions that we can provide to help you. So, you know, as a Vertex and Shopify customer, you know, whether you're using one of our or both of our solutions, you know, really we recognize that, you know, you're looking to grow your business, and whether you're looking to expand your business geographically, whether it's a matter of expanding the products and solutions that you're selling, with that comes complexity. And, you know, the integration of our solutions is really meant to provide you with everything you need to be able to transact, comply, and grow with confidence, regardless of how, when, and where you're selling to your customers. With that, I'm going to hand over to Andy, and he's going to talk a little bit more about exactly how we can do that.
Thanks, Stephen. Hi, everybody. Yeah, quick introduction for me. I'm Andy Halter, based in the UK with Vertex. Here at Vertex, I'm a solution engineer. It means I understand the Vertex solutions themselves and how our customers use them. By background, though, I'm an old school VAT specialist, both Big Four and in-house experience. I know, you know, during that time, I learned the difference between knowing an awful lot about VAT and actually making VAT flow through my systems to help me and my businesses be compliant and grow our business. All in all, I've been doing this kind of thing for the last 25 years or so. So I'll run through from here where Shopify and Vertex are coming together and how they're helping business to, you know, potentially grow their markets across the world. So cognizant that on our first poll, 75% of people are neither Vertex nor a Shopify customer. I won't take too much for granted, so maybe I'll start from first principles. So Vertex there, literally in the middle of things. The core element of what the Vertex solution is bringing is global indirect tax content. Whether you call it sales tax, VAT, GST, consumption tax, whatever it may be, every country, well, the vast majority of countries across the world have some kind of indirect tax system that is designed to raise money for the government. At any point, those rates and rules could change. The Vertex platform, at its heart, is keeping track of all those rates, rules, and the changes, keeping that updated. And that Vertex platform is then seamlessly connected with Shopify, whether Plus or Commerce, so that each time a transaction is being raised, those two systems will interact and Vertex will confirm to Shopify, for example, what is the correct tax to be either charged on top of that transaction or taken out from an embedded gross amount. And I suppose, what is it there to do? In a way, getting tax right is not just an aim of itself. It's a byproduct, if you like, that our customers are all about, and you on the call, all about business growth. You want and probably need to get the tax right as well, but really growing that business, expanding that business, and using Shopify to do that is the important thing here. What the Vertex solution will do is give you the confidence to grow and scale wherever you may wish to move to, or wherever your business may take you to. So what's it going to do? Literally, it's going to improve your global tax accuracy, to be assured that wherever you go, whatever the layers of complexity in that particular location, whether there are particular very local rules that apply to a particular kind of product, or B2C treatment versus B2B treatment, the rates themselves varying across countries, varying across different products and service, that's all within Vertex, and going to make sure that when you're invoicing, when you're quoting, the tax will be appropriately taken account of. And there's a lot to be said for getting the tax right up front first time, because that inevitably is going to lead to downstream reporting. Wherever you're charging tax, you're probably going to have to be reporting in some way off the back of that. Getting the tax right first time is a great way to get your local compliance right. Tax authorities no longer want companies to be spending time at the end of each month throwing data into Excel, playing around with it enough until it's ready to submit. They want demonstrable process, accuracy up front, touchless flow of data to meet tax filing and remittance requirements wherever that may be. That itself goes hand in with ongoing compliance as well. Those rates and rules are going to change. You don't just want to get what you're doing correct today. It needs to be correct going forward into the future. And again, using Shopify to grow globally, you're only going to have expanding requirements. You need to have something in place to look to meet those requirements as you go. On the top right there, simplifying cross-border compliance. That's the way to grow your business. You can go global. It's easier to go global than it ever has been. Systems like Shopify will help you get there. But it's not about you, I suppose. It's about your customers at the end of the day. And whether we like it or not, tax is one of the elements that will have an impact on your customer experience. Especially, let's say, if you're transacting in the US and you are charging the wrong tax to your customer, a customer in the US is pretty savvy. They know the expectation of the tax are going to be charged. If you're charging too much tax, well, guess what? People will abandon carts, you lose your sale. It's not a good way to expand with growth. So the converse of that, transacting globally with confidence, knowing full well that you have something in place, that wherever you're selling, you're going to be getting the tax right, you're going to be complying. It's going to be a smooth journey for your customer. And one element, Megan mentioned it as well, unifying the experience across systems. There's a fair chance that if you're on a business, if you're at a business listening to this call, the chance of Shopify is not going to be your only route to market. You may have ERP platforms, marketplace platforms. You may also have procurement platforms, multiple strands of your business that are all around making sales or to end customers. Each of those systems needs to be sensitized to VAT to make that customer experience, business experience as streamlined as possible, and potentially Vertex can sit in the middle of all that, not just getting your tax right in the upfront Shopify, but if that's being then reflected in fulfillment systems, if it's ERPs, we have wholesale businesses running through those ERPs. That Vertex platform can sit in the middle of all of those, giving the benefits we've talked about across a wider section of your business. Again, some parts of the world, point of sale system still need tax calculation. The Vertex solution will expand to that, if you like, a one-stop shop to enable true tax compliance. And again, to put some more meat on the bone of this, you're all about growth. You want to get into those new business opportunities, whether that's expanding the portfolio of what it is you sell or being able to reach a wider global customer base, especially with things like digital services. Very easy to start selling to anybody across the world at any given point in time. A great way to potentially build your business. We see even those great mega lists of massive manufacturing companies nowadays knowing there are smarter ways to drive certain parts of their business, going online, interacting with consumers more directly, the ability to sell things that they've never considered before, and as a business and as a tax unit within a business, I never necessarily needed to think about. And of course, all of this business growth is stymied by a poor customer experience. Customer experience must be at the center of all this. Tax is one of those elements. If you can help streamline that, then all the better. The converse of that opportunity for growth is the complexity that comes hand in hand with it. Literally, more countries, that's going to give you more countries with which to comply. More rates, more rules, more reporting in each of those. And this is really a direction of flow that we're seeing nowadays across the globe. But guess what? Governments and tax authorities have big holes in their budget. They need more tax dollars or euros or yen or whatever it may be. Very easy for tax authorities to put in place new legislation that's going to capture business, to make more of that business liable to VAT in their countries. We've seen a range of rules to do with digital services, B2C especially, that very easy to be pulled onshore and start needing to charge tax in countries you never had to do before. In recent years, even goods sellers in various parts across the world, there have been regimes that allowed for tax-free imports of goods, low-value imports. Those countries that used to have those are removing those boundaries because guess what? They'd rather have the tax than just goods coming in tax-free. Marketplaces, more and more marketplaces are coming in across the world. And guess what? The tax authorities are smart. Let's target the marketplace operators to get more tax from them rather than chasing thousands of faceless original sellers looking to get tax from the business that's going into those locations. More reporting as well, not just good old-fashioned VAT returns or state and local returns in the US, but a whole new range of reporting designed to give the tax authorities more data more quickly than they ever have done before. In places like Spain, the concept of the SII reporting, at least every 4 days, a whole range of information being passed to the tax authorities that have previously never been looked for before. Alongside reporting, a definite direction of travel at the moment, e-invoicing. Now, whether this comes off the back of an e-commerce sale or whether that's more likely reflected in a background ERP, in short, more and more tax authorities, countries are going to require that e-invoicing becomes the way they are dealt with. It's, literally an e-invoice sent to those local tax authorities for, historically it's been for B2G, B2 government business. It's going to move, or has already moved in some countries, to B2B business, in some countries even to B2C as well. This is something we're going to see more and more, and it all lends itself again to potentially more complexity, things that can get in the way of business, friction. So the more things you need to comply with, the more things you're not quite ready for as you expand across the globe, the more possibility there is for friction to apply, to get in the way of business. As a VAT specialist by background, that for many years, that was always the vibe we carried with us, that somehow we were the blockers to business. We were the ones that would go to the business and say, you can't do X, Y, Z because think about the tax consequences. If you like, one other way of looking at complexity is to turn that around and look at it as being opportunity. If you can have something in place, process, software, automation, demonstrable process, even better, that's going to enable you to hit these challenges running, the complexity kind of goes away. It, in fact, instead becomes smooth. And without friction, you have the ability to grow your market all the better. You can be first to market rather than having to think afterwards, oh, I wasn't quite ready for these new tax regimes in these new countries, so we had to delay our rollout for X number of months whilst we sorted it out. With something in place, it allows you to grow in a more unrestricted manner. Those of you listening in from the US, as you're looking to expand into places like EMEA, and trust me, I will say this the other way as well, do not approach Europe or EMEA with the concept of sales tax in the front of your mind. They are substantially different taxes. If you approach one of those tax types with the mindset of the other, then you will inevitably come across problems. As you come to Europe, we have the trade block. We have the trade block of the EU, special rules within the EU, actually rules designed to help business expand, something called the one-stop shop, a way for business to transact across the EU, but without having to register for business in every single one of those 27 states. A much more streamlined way, but it still needs to be managed. If you're importing into the EU, there may be thresholds per consignment that have an effect on the tax treatment. B2B is very different in VAT world to B2B and B2C are two very different things. And many countries have their own version of these rules that are going to potentially bring you on board for tax purposes and require you to meet with whatever that country needs. But I'm going to portray this as good news. It's unusual in a way that what tax authorities want and what businesses want are the same thing. But unusually, the way things have gone, probably more with the tax authorities than the business, what tax authorities want from taxpayers is touchless compliance. They want the tax to be got right, and they want that to flow into their bank account at the end of the day in the most processed, systematized way as possible. Automation, by another word. They don't want people to be inconsistently right. They don't want data flying into Excel with people looking at that data to try and get the numbers as right. They just want business to transact, to get the tax right, and make that available to the tax authorities. Now, as I've said, I've used this phrase friction before. If your business is looking to grow, what you want is frictionless commerce, the ability to hit those markets running. They become the same thing. You want to remove those manual processes, concentrate on getting consistent, accurate calculation first time, every time, because that's just going to help your immediate compliance and reporting needs. But more to the point, with a clear, demonstrable process in place and being proactive rather than reactive, you're going to hit the ground running. And this is very much the hallmark of why Shopify and Vertex are working together. Through Shopify, you can expand globally, but you don't want to expand globally and then realize you hit the brick wall of not being ready to comply with the tax authorities. With Vertex in place, you can feel confident that as you expand into those new regimes, you're kind of covered. You put the hard work in ahead of time to allow the seamless, the frictionless rollout of business into those new locations. I promised I wasn't just going to warn US listeners to worry about Europe. It goes the other way as well. There's not a European business out there that wouldn't like to make it big in the US. And how best to put it, the US is not like most of the rest of the world. Sales tax is a very, very different beast to VAT. The smart amongst you will know that the US, yes, it's divided into 50 states, but it is also divided into some 12 or 13,000 separate taxing jurisdictions, each of which may have the ability to raise its own taxes and to vary those taxes anytime they see fit. There are plenty of apocryphal stories about if you ship to one side of the road, potentially you're charging different tax if you ship to the other side of the road. You're not designed to be able to see the detail on the maps on the right-hand side, but the heat map nature of it will give you that indication that you're dealing with a very, very wide range of taxes across the US that are going to vary drastically by reference to location. Where is your customer located? In the US, one of the key elements that needs to be understood is driving down to that zip code or that address zip code, the zip +4, to really designate where your customers are located. And both Shopify and Vertex have helped solve that puzzle together to really drive down to the most granular level of address identification to make sure that the taxes are right in those locations. A single simple sale into somewhere like Los Angeles, California, can drive something like 8 different lines of tax, each at different rates, all need to be reported separately as well. The task of managing US sales tax is very, very complicated. Just one moment. Apologies, immediate digging work just outside my door. Hopefully that's stopped now. The challenge of going to the US with a European mindset is not going to work. You need to be sure of where you're going with that taxability. State by state, thresholds to designate when you hit nexus. In the good old days, you have nexus if you had a brick and mortar store or were running trade shows or something like that on the ground. More recently, the US tax authorities got smart. They've got massive gaps to fill. No longer do you need to be physically located in a state to have nexus and the requirement to charge tax. You need to monitor the level of your threshold per state. You hit those thresholds, and they're normally around the $100 or $2,000 mark per year, or a particular number of transactions, normally around 200. If you hit those, you are then responsible for charging tax at the right place. At the right rates, so multiple rates, all subject to change. Concepts that we also don't really see in VAT world so much, in a few places we do, but things like max taxes and tiered taxes. So if you're selling clothing into New York, anything under $110, tax-free. If an item over $110, it's going to be subject to 3 different types of tax. So the ability to manage this is not going to happen by chance. The Vertex solution, dare I say, this is the depth and level of content that it's dealing with. So if you're selling in the US, that same Vertex platform is going to underpin your sales there, zone in on where your customer is located, what it is you're selling, and bring the right tax each time. That in turn will flow through to all those state and local filings. It's very, very easy as a business of any size to give yourself requirements of hundreds of monthly filings down to those local levels. Again, the Vertex solution will help there. The concept of exemption certificate, something that we don't really have so much of in VAT world, it's a big deal in the US. If you're going there and you're selling B2B, especially if they're resellers or hospitals or schools or government agencies, this kind of thing, you may be able to exempt your sales, which is nice, but you need to actively manage the exemption certificates that your customers are expected to give you there are ways that the Shopify and Vertex work together to overcome that complexity. To move a little into, I suppose, the system side of this, and the good news is it's not a complex arrangement. You see here on the left-hand side, Shopify, Vertex integration pulled down from the Shopify store, linking to the Vertex calculation engine, that cloud-based platform that has all that indirect tax content in it. Again, whether it's sales tax, VAT, GST, same single global platform that's just going to extend to wherever you may be making sales. If you follow the arrows on this diagram, the order, the quote, the invoice happens in Shopify. There is an interaction between the two systems. Shopify sends to Vertex the facts of that calculation. Who is supplying what, to whom, where, when, and for how much. And OCAs will instantaneously pass that back to Shopify. So if I, Andy, am buying something on the website, I don't see any of this happening. I'm just I'm in my basket, or I'm at checkout, and I then see the taxes there. The way I see that tax will vary from location to location. In the US, the general business way of doing business is the tax is going to go on top of any amount charged. In VAT world, well, you're going to lose a lot of customers if you start putting tax on top of an invoice. So usually we would expect those charges to be gross and the VAT taken out of it. And the Vertex solution can interact with Shopify to flex to whatever is appropriate, wherever you may be doing business. Usually tax exclusive in the US, usually tax inclusive in other parts of the world. As you said before, unifying that experience across systems, you could replace Shopify here with a range of other platforms that we talked about, ERPs, marketplace, whatever it is you may have in your business that's helping you get stuff to final customers, potentially linking to that central hub of Vertex, removing from you the requirement to keep your own system somehow up to date, or worse, relying on people to make decisions about VAT. ERP clerks, for example, are generally not heavily tax skilled. Very easy to get tax decisions wrong. It's a complex world out there. And again, think back to what we were saying about tax authorities wanting that touchless compliance. Relying on people to make decisions is not really going to cut it in the tax authority world anymore. They see you as a business are doing that, much more likely to give you scrutiny, much more likely to take up the valuable time of your tax and finance team, again, creating friction, taking you away from what you should be doing, underpinning successful growth of your business. I suppose a little plug for Vertex. We've talked here about getting the tax right. Alongside that, having to manage those compliance tasks, whether it's submitting VAT returns or EC sales lists or interest stats, or those new filings that the SAFTIs, the SII in Spain and so on, all part of a VAT compliance layer that Vertex can bring to the party. Sales and use tax compliance in the US. Again, if you're in Europe, you're not on the ground in Europe, you may be interested in things like an outsourcing model to take that remittance and compliance task off your hand. And there at the top, the thing that's coming, if it's not already here, e-invoicing as well. So Vertex looking to help business manage their end-to-end compliance, in inverted commas, getting the tax right, managing exemptions, managing B2B versus B2C, managing reporting, and interacting with those tax authorities for those e-invoicing regimes, whether that's out of Shopify or more likely, a background ERP that's somewhere else in your business. So to take you into the solution, not going to go in there live. You don't need to see me browsing a web shop, but I'll show you some of the key moving parts. The good news is it's touch light. It's designed to be simple, streamlined. The Vertex component, you see it highlighted at the top there. Shopify is still Shopify. That's going to be where you manage your business. That Vertex interface we talked about, that seamless interface, can be pulled down from the store. It can flex to your particular transactional master data setup, the way you set your products. For example, if you need to send extra bits of metadata across to Vertex for interrogation to drive the right tax, and that can be very simply achieved. But fundamentally, Shopify setup, you're going to be describing where are your locations, what are your products, for example. And this is the kind of information that will, in due course, be passed to Vertex after the time of transaction. There is a Vertex user interface. You're not going in there every day, normally one-time upfront setup or anytime you get a new registration, for example. What sits within Vertex? Some indication of who you are from a VAT or a sales tax point of view. Which countries are you registered in? Which US states do you have nexus in? Which county, city, or parish do you have some other requirements in? What's your one-stop shop situation in the EU, for example? Vertex is going to take this into account each time it interrogates those Shopify transactions to make sure that the right tax is being declared in the right locations out of the right registration, for example. The fact that there's a one-stop shop reference here, the specific logic for one-stop shop is already built into Vertex. It knows there's a difference between B2C and B2B. It knows what's in the EU and what's not in the EU, which sub-jurisdictions have a special treatment, Great Britain versus Northern Ireland, Canaries versus Spain, and so on. It's going to take this into account to drive towards the right tax. If you get a new registration, you're going into their UI or you're passing in an API to say, oh, I'm now registered in Japan, let's say. Very easy to manage that ongoing basis. If you're monitoring nexus thresholds in the US as part of the Vertex solution, that will keep you up to date, almost live with that, so you can see when you're approaching the thresholds in particular locations. And then those of you who recognize a Shopify checkout when you'll see one, this is what it's going to end up looking like for me, the final consumer. I'm buying something, getting it delivered to the Netherlands for my 340 euros or thereabouts, and you see within there the 59 euros in taxes. Vertex, looking at the facts, where's it being shipped from, which location, where's the delivery address, and driving to the right tax amount. On screen, for me, the purchaser, but of course it's then going to interact with the admin side of Shopify. Here, a screenshot from the order screen. Again, it's going to confirm this was subject to Dutch VAT. It was shipped out of my Dutch warehouse, and that 21% tax is there. And similar but different as you transact safely around the world. I'm now delivering to Germany. I'm now taking out of that, what's that, 58 euros in tax, taking into account shipping as well. But again, seamless experience for me, the final consumer, the 363.90, that was the gross amount. The tax will come out of that. To an extent, I, as a final consumer, I don't care. I'm paying my 363.90. For you as the merchant, you can be assured that that is going to be taken into your order detail to allow that to seamlessly flow through to reporting and statutory compliance thereafter. Again, the reference here that perhaps these goods were delivered to Germany from the Netherlands, but that one-stop shop has kicked in, and the German VAT of 19 appropriately presented on that particular transaction. Again, similar but different. I'm now shipping to my my summer location of Beverly Hills 90210. I'm getting a completely different tax experience. I'm paying my $310, but when I go to checkout, another 30 or so bucks of taxes added on top. This is a perfectly reasonable customer experience for me in the US, but I would probably know if that tax was wrong. If it's wrong, I might query it. I might abandon the shop. I might later request a credit note and a re-invoice. Again, creating friction, creating a loss of business. Get that tax right first time. Enjoy the fruits of frictionless expansion. Again, borne out back in the order that this sale into California has driven taxes of various different levels, state, county, district, whatever it may be. And this will literally vary from location to location. All the tax results are all coming from Vertex, but all being driven by the link in with the Shopify platform. So again, variations on the theme. Shopify simply interacting with Vertex, the facts coming from Shopify, the tax results coming from Vertex. So that hopefully give you some indication of the look and feel. Shopify still Shopify. There is a Vertex user interface, some baseline information in there. Where are you registered? How might Vertex differentiate different types of products that are going to be taxed differently? Digital services are taxed quite differently from goods, and clothing are taxed in a certain way. For example, with a sensitization made in Vertex, you could be assured that Vertex is not just declaring a generic amount of tax, it's declaring the right amount of tax for that particular product or service in those particular locations. And with that, I suppose we'll come to Q&A in just one second. I suppose, from my perspective as a VAT in-house person back in the day, what I take away from all this is to be ahead of the game, even more than tax people always have been, being proactive and not reactive to this, being with the business to understand, well, where are you looking to go with your business? What can I have in place to make that business expansion as seamless as possible, using tools like Shopify to grow that global expansion, but hand in hand with that, using something like a Vertex to help create frictionless commerce, so the tax doesn't become the blocker it always used to be, so the tax can become part of your success story, that you can look back, and if tax in-house does its job right, they make sure enough people know how seamless it was due to them, we can be part of tax can be part of the hero story of the business. So get ahead of the game, be proactive, look to automate, and help drive business forward, not just to be a blocker. So thank you for your time. I look forward to having the opportunity to interact with people in person rather than just talking at you. Great to have the opportunity, though. And with that, I'll hand back over to my colleague, Stephen.
Thanks, Andy. That was certainly helpful. So right now we're going to take a moment to take a couple of questions. I know we're a little over time, so we're going to try and take a couple of top questions. And once again, if you have any questions and haven't had a chance, feel free to put those in the chat. If we don't happen to get to your question during the live presentation, we will follow up with you afterwards. So I'm going to start with let me see. I'll start with this question. As well as Shopify, we run SAP as an ERP. Does that solution, or does a combined solution work for that too? Andy, I'll toss that over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen, and good question. I think I probably answered that as I went along there, that the Vertex solution can potentially link in with other platforms. Now, SAP is one of those classic platforms where if you're buying, selling, moving goods as a large business, that SAP is the ERP that's going to help with that. And absolutely, Vertex and SAP have a very close solution where Vertex can greatly streamline the job of work and making SAP work for VAT. Historically, it's been a very heavy job of build and ongoing maintenance. With Vertex in place, can be much more streamlined to help you get either those US tax rates right first time, or in VAT, well, help you with those complexities around multi-party flows, triangulation, driving the right tax code, and streamlining the ongoing usage of things like tax codes. With Vertex in place, no need to build condition records or material tax classifications, no need to retire tax codes. So that Vertex solution, it's system agnostic, but it's been built with specific interfaces into solutions such as Shopify, or on the other hand, maybe an SAP or an Oracle or Dynamics 365. So yes, think of Vertex as being the central VAT hub in your system landscape, moving from you the need to have to sensitize all those systems for VAT themselves.
Oh, fantastic. So just looking at the questions coming in, because we have some new ones coming in. Here's what I'll throw out once again, Andy. how do you deal with triangulation?
Oh, yeah, I just mentioned it there. Yeah, as a VAT person, triangulation is always fun. For those who don't know what triangulation is, or simplification, I suppose, it's multi-party flows of goods, and especially within the EU, sometimes it's goods going from country A to country C, but the invoicing route is different, going from company A to company B to company C. That layer of rules within Vertex is built to understand the complexity of many things, including triangulation. So based both on EU legislation and country-specific legislation, Vertex is going to interact with the transactional data passed to it, and it can confirm whether, in a particular circumstance, that particular transaction, for example, qualifies for triangulation and simplification. The national specific rules in the platform also know that in certain circumstances, some countries won't allow triangulation and simplification if that middleman is also registered where the customer is located, for example. And the Vertex content is smart enough to know, in this circumstance, say, it's not triangulation simplification, it's an acquisition in country C, and the onward sale is a domestic reverse charge. So the embedded, what I would call the place of supply logic within Vertex is designed to manage those kind of complexities, those multi-party flows, and triangulation is a great example. So yeah, many of those, again, we see this more in the ERPs, the 365s and the SAPs. Vertex can interact with those to drive the right tax results, both on the AR and the inherent AP side of the transaction. So yeah, whoever put that question in, love to have that discussion with you more directly.
Okay. And another one that came in. Does Vertex also handle tax registration in local country?
Does it handle tax registration? Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to read that, but if you are registered in a location, Vertex will take that into account to drive the right tax. In some locations, we can help with certain registrations, which may be part of the question, but fundamentally, Vertex, that setup we looked at earlier on the Vertex portal side, logging in there, where are you VAT registered, or where do you have Nexus? Where are you physically present? And why it links in with that triangulation thing as well. The Vertex logic knows that it makes a difference whether you're VAT registered. It makes a difference whether you're physically present. Vertex will take those setups into account to drive towards the right result.
Okay. Well, I know we've got some more questions in, and once again, if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But I think at this point, we're going to cut off for today. Once again, if you've put a question in that we haven't had a chance to answer, we will follow up with you offline. But I'd like to stop there and thank both Andrew and Megan for joining me on this webinar. Thank you all for joining us today. As I mentioned, we'll be sending out a link to the recording of the webinar and a link to the slides as well. So thank you for joining us, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good time.